All right. It looks like we are live. Thank goodness. Melissa, I don't know about you, but one of many questions that I get in my DMs, in my comments, is just like, how, I'm a therapist, I'm a social worker, I'm tired, I want to transition, I want to figure out whether there's some other things I can do out there. And so, Melissa and I, in celebration of Brave Enough to Begin this Thursday, are coming on live tonight to answer the most frequent questions that you all have. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat for us, and we are just going to discuss them and kind of just go through them. Sound good?
Yeah, thank you for doing the opening. I think to first of all, thank you everybody for your patience because I know we said we were coming on live 7:30, but technology will be technology. We're gonna figure this out, right? Yeah, and I just I thank you for joining me and having this conversation. We decided to do this last minute just because we want to be of support. I just feel like there's so many questions that people tend to have, and so let's just kind of jump right in with one of the biggest ones that I tend to hear, and I saw
Yeah.
you actually did a video on it today,
Yeah.
which is what is this consulting thing that everybody keeps on talking about
Yes.
that people are able to do with their clinical skills, their social
Yes.
work skills? What is that? What is that?
Yeah. You know what? So consulting, real high level, right? Consulting is this idea that you're going in as an expert into an agency, a company, whatever the size of the organization is, right? And you are providing them your skills, right, to solve a sort of problem within the organization, right? So you think about your KPMGs, your Deloitte's, those big old consulting
Mm-hmm.
firms, and they're really sending out professionals to really address and analyze a problem and provide real life solutions, right? And so that's how I see us as social workers and therapists embedding ourselves into the sort of corporate spaces. And I think, like, not I think, I know on Thursday we had the same question at the founders table, and I think you so beautifully helped direct one of our founder table members, kind of help her see that it can be a lot of things, right? It doesn't just have to be going in and facilitating a workshop. It can look a lot of different ways. And I think you did a beautiful way. You beautifully articulated that for one of our founder member table. Uh, Founders.
It's
Uh,
late, girl.
yes, it's late.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that. I just think that after providing support in many different environments for so many years, since I've been in a full time entrepreneurship, I just think that as clinicians, social workers in particular, I think clinicians as a whole, therapists as a whole, but we tend to see ourselves as one thing, right? We know we're the helper, but we think that we only help the individual and we don't think about all the different ways that we can help individuals in different settings. And
Yes.
so when we think about consultancy, I really want to encourage people to think about everything from, okay, who do I want to serve and what are the outcomes I want for these individuals in all of the places that these individuals either exist in the world or
Yep.
the systems that they intersect with, and all the different ways I can support them within these systems so that things can be different. And
Yes.
that can be everything from like helping managers to be able to understand how to work with individuals like the people that we want to serve,
Yep.
helping organizations develop policies and procedures,
Yep.
to being thought partners with leaders in organizations to support them in improving the environment for the people who work there or the people who they serve there.
Yep.
So we tend to think about how we apply our skills in
Yep.
one way when there's so many different ways we can apply our skills. I think that leads to question number two
Mm-hmm.
that I tend to see a lot. What is transferable skills? What
Yeah.
does that even mean? How do I know that I have transferable skills?
Yeah, transferable skills are really those. so I'm going to say soft skills, and I'm going to use air quotes because those are the skills that help you connect with people. Those are the skills that help you analyze problems. Those are the skills that help you really take a bigger, sort of larger issue and really contextualize it and break it down and make it more digestible, right? So, like, we do that innately as therapists, as social workers. And I primarily think of like when you're a social worker in the hospital, right? You are like working with clients to really help them digest really big, large concepts, whether it's like disability or Medicare waivers and all these different complex things. You're also communicating, right? That's an extremely transferable skill that is both effective and most and it's needed both in the clinical space and sort of in this corporate or consulting space, right? So those are the skills that help us in the roles that we do today and how they may lend themselves to be helpful in sort of the corporate space or the consulting space or the facilitation space or the speaking space, whatever the path or route that you're going to go towards. That is a transferable skill, right? It transfers. The name sort of implies that. But I really think that we undermine the amount of transferable skills that we have as social workers and therapists because I think it has a lot to do with what you just said, right? We kind of see ourselves only in this one traditional path and that is it, right? And if that's what you choose, that's okay. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that. We're just saying that if you decide that you want different, that's okay, right? And those are some of the topics that we'll be discussing this Thursday, with Melissa and I. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that how I like to, especially for clinicians, is when you have to think about someone that you're working with, if you're doing like a strengths assessment, right? So if you're doing an assessment with them and you were able to sit down and to break down their strengths, I think that we need to do the same things for ourselves when it comes to the work that we do. And then we'll be able to clearly identify what our transferable skills are. You
Right.
know, crisis management, conflict management, being able to, quickly and easily develop rapport,
Yep.
helping people to be able to understand what things they need to accomplish, even when they don't want to accomplish it, right? Taking someone who doesn't want to work with you, especially if you have an experience working in foster care, community mental health, working with high risk and chronic individuals, right? Then
Yep.
you have to develop the skill of not only developing rapport, but taking somebody who sees you as an op, right?
Yep.
As an op, and then bringing them onto your team. And that's a skill to be able to teach any manager, right? Like that is easily a skill to be able to teach any manager. And when we look in the landscape of what work is right now, where there tends to be very high conflict situations
Yep.
between managers and the people who they manage and employees. What does it mean when you go to an organization and you say, what if I could teach you how to have a better relationship with your team members? What does it cost you to have consistent turnover, right? What does it cost you? Oh, your employees just went on strike. How are you reintegrating them back into the workplace that is highly stressful, where they didn't feel cared for, where they didn't, right? And so these are very real conversations
Yep.
that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to even consider that we know how to do because we take these skills for granted. And I think that we take our skills for granted because we're underpaid. We're
Yep.
often taught that our skills don't matter much, don't matter much. And we do live in a social construct where soft skills, skills that matter to humans,
Mhm.
are undervalued. And so then we tend to internalize that lack of value as well.
No, I mean, you hit on every box. I was just taking notes here, but I think we live in such a reactive society, and there is a subset of organizations out there that want to be proactive, right? And so, like those, when we think about like pitching ourselves, again, something that we'll be discussing this Thursday at our program. But when we think about things like that, think about those companies that are proactive or those companies that want to get ahead of the curve, right? Or understand that the amount of financial impact that their organizations are experiencing as a result of sort of the high turnover or people not coming into work or people not performing to their best capacity. And also bear in mind, like most managers aren't equipped to sort of manage people in the sense of like behavioral changes or people management or like mental health issues, they tend to be fearful of that, right? And so like again, furthermore, it drives the point of why us as experts should be driving these initiatives within these organizations. And that's why it makes so much sense for therapists and social workers to be consultants in corporate spaces.
Correct. I mean, when we look at one of the projects that we're helping someone build out in the founders table right now, which I won't name because she got a little lock, right?
Mhm.
But the reality of it is that even organizations that need to be reactive, sometimes when we're looking at income potential for us, going into support an organization that has had a major lawsuit, going into support, someone where that they have constant high turnovers. If you're looking at Glassdoor and
Yep.
you're seeing that there's a major organization that has maybe 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 employees, and
Yep.
they're constantly hiring for the same roles over and over, and their rates of those evaluations from people who have interviewed there or worked there are really low, then you
Yep.
might want to say to yourself, I know you got a problem
Problem.
here, right?
Yeah.
How much does it cost you to have this turnover? And
Right.
so I agree. Proactivity is awesome. Those are often the best environments to consult in because
Yep.
they really want you to be a partner. They are super enthusiastic about having you on board. And reactive environments sometimes what they're willing to pay to solve a clear problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes working with organizations that aren't as forward thinking or kind can be very financially beneficial.
Yeah. And something, we've also been talking about at the founders table is like helping our community calculate the cost of how much it's costing these
You've
companies.
done an amazing job of like helping them to put the numbers there. I was like, oh, I need to still feel that way of thinking
We're
about it.
shifting. We're no longer exchanging our time for an hour. Like that's out with the old. And like that again, if you join us at Brave Enough to Begin this Thursday, that's something that we will go over as well. But we're helping a group of therapists really shift their mindset around money, because which you do an excellent job with is like really honing into the mindset and sort of the limitations we place on ourselves, which then kind of shows up as anxiety, which shows up as like, insecurities in some ways. And I think you do a beautiful job of just like breaking that down, but also moving them through a process through your framework that you develop.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that mindset is the most underrated part of this work, right? Which, brings us to another question that I've seen a lot, which is it really that easy? And the answer is no.
No, it's not easy.
Like,
This stuff
no,
is not
it's not. It's not. I don't care. It's so
easy.
funny to me when I get, because obviously now that we're having these conversations more on the timeline, you get more of these conversations on the
Yeah,
timeline, right? So I'm getting, targeted for more ads from coaches, some who are therapists who have transitioned into this lane, which I think is beautiful. I don't think that there could be enough of us doing this work.
yeah,
And not every program is going to be for everyone.
right.
But most of them are people who are not therapists who are targeting therapists for their sales programs or for their coaching programs, and which is also nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
But I think that there's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of it is how easy it is,
yeah,
right? Like it's so all you have to do is,
yeah,
and the truth is, you're building something, you're building community, you're building an audience, you're testing, you're reframing. You will hear no, you will hear disappointment.
yeah,
If you don't understand what your triggers are, if you don't understand how to pivot, if you don't understand what your daily regimen needs to be to support
yeah,
you in this process, then you wind up giving up at some point, or having things that you want to do that sit on the back burner for 2 years and 5 years and 10 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so it becomes very disheartening, because then you lose faith in yourself.
yeah,
When if you just had the support that you needed, you could be able to get over that hump and develop what you love,
yeah.
and right, be able to actually do it and have the faith in yourself. And so I love what we've developed with this acronym BRAVE, which gives people 5 things that they need to do, and on Thursday they can leave and they can walk away with just committing to one to see a shift in themselves. because the truth is, you do have to give yourself permission to be ready. You
Yeah.
do have to give yourself permission to shift something about yourself, what happens internally for the mindset shift for this work. Because while I do think it can be fairly simple, it
Yeah.
is not necessarily easy because of all of the internal stories we have, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think again, you do a beautiful job in helping our social workers and therapists kind of address some of those internal stories and kind of identify how that's showing up and how that's sort of impacting their ability to execute. But something I think you mentioned that was really important is the daily regimen, right? And I think our folks over at the Founders Table, we've helped them identify what that daily regimen, and even in this Brave Enough to Begin training or workshop, rather, we should frame it as, you will leave understanding what your daily regimen needs to look like, right? What you need to be committed to get this thing done. Because, like Melissa said, it's not easy, but it can be done. And you have to uphold yourself to be, or you have to keep yourself accountable, right? Which is a
Accountable,
part of
yeah.
accountability, is a big part of this Founders Table. And that's why
Yeah.
we built this beautiful community to, help support in addition to providing that accountability. But you have to hold yourself accountable to getting these things done to move the process forward, because if nothing gets done, nothing will get done. You will not see
Yeah.
the money, but the money's there, right? Because that's
But
what
the money is there. The money is there, which brings me to another question that,
we're.
um, girl, because I see people come for you. People come for
They
you.
be trying
Some
me.
people come for you.
They be
So let me
trying.
ask you this question because you do a very good job. You have the calculator, right? Like you have
Yeah.
tools that giving people to support them in thinking about the money differently when it comes to this work. But how do you talk about money without feeling like you've abandoned your purpose?
Ooh, that's such a good one, because we're both social workers, and I think the thing is, it's just like, I always think when I start to like question myself, or I feel myself caving in when it comes to money, and kind of connecting back to social work, I'm just like, where did this message come from that we have to be like stuck in poverty, right? And so that's where my mind automatically directs to. And so it's kind of like the sort of CBT process that I walk myself through, but also community. I
Mm-hmm.
think that my community is so pivotal in how I address money, talk about money, and navigate money. And I think the biggest issue that we have is thinking that we can do this thing alone, right? Or get through this process and this journey alone. And so we think we can figure it out. We think we can Google our way. I mean, you can, but you're
But you
still
can't.
having to, right?
But you can't for real. You can't for real. You can't for real. But
Yeah.
finish. Then I'm going to talk about why you can. Go ahead.
Well, and I was going to tie it back to you and sort of like the narratives that we tell ourselves. Are you really working through to address some of those things? If it's just you and kind of having that conversation, like you need we need people to get through this journey, right? Whatever that looks like for you. But like, because I have people that will check me, and I share this story all the time. Maybe my friend Robert is watching, maybe he's not. He might be busy working. But I remember one time I told him my rate for a speaking engagement. No lie, it was $500. He gave me this look, and he was just like, girl, that's gonna be the last time you ever charged that before. And had I not had the community, had I not had that conversation, had I not have a safe contained space where I can have these conversations where somebody can check me on that, I would have never gotten over that, right? But sometimes if I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I needed the community to sort of support me, hold me accountable, and call me out on my stuff, right? And it's just helped me elevate and help me get better. And I'm still learning, I'm still growing. Started the whole social work pay transparency movement that created some conversations. Some people didn't like it, some people loved it, but I did it for the people who needed to understand that there was sort of, first we had to overcome that to understand what we can be asking for.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's really important because many of us do this work. The unspoken truth is that many of us do this work because we have our own histories and experiences with the systems that we are engaged with.
Yeah.
And many of us come from environments where our parents didn't earn much, right? Where money comes from this place of scarcity and lack, and most of us started our professional careers in places where we were grossly underpaid, and
Absolutely.
so even our work has been tied to living in a way that has kept us in scarcity, that has kept us really struggling and so it's scratching and surviving. You know what I mean? Good times. Like we were far from good times. Like,
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
it's, yeah. So I think that we, I was having this conversation today about endurance, right? And I think that we've learned how to endure a lot of ways in our field. We've learned how to do jobs that we don't like. We've learned how to be burnt out. We've learned how to do that because we care about the individuals that we
Yeah.
serve. We, care about the work that we do, and so we've made it work for us, even though it doesn't work for us. And in some ways, it is killing us, right? In
Absolutely.
some ways, it's killing us. And I think that's why I like to say that you can't Google your way. I mean, you can Google your way to the tangibles, right?
Yeah.
Like Google will give you Google, or any AI tool might give you some guidelines. But what I think is different about what we do, the way that we approach this work, is we're not giving you our format.
Yeah.
A lot of programs are like, well, I did this thing and I did this thing this way. And so I'm going to teach you how to do this thing that I did. And that's great. But most of us have something else that's embedded in us that's our purpose. We
Right.
have a way that we work, or a way that we want to work and
Yeah.
serve, that lights us up and
Yeah.
brings us passion. And when you look at information around what burnout is, when you
Yeah.
look at information around what compassion fatigue is,
Yeah.
a lot of what it is has to do with how you hold the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
and what's missing in that work for you.
Correct.
And so, what I love about what we've created, and I mean, in Brave Enough to Begin and at the Founders Table, really is like supporting people in developing what is already inside of them,
Yeah.
so that the work feeds them. It feeds their souls, it feeds their spirits, and it feeds the life they actually want to live. Not just what they want to be doing for work, but also the quality of life that they want to live. And that's a little bit different than what I see. I also think it's one of the challenges that we've had in
Yeah.
communicating what we do, because
Yeah.
it's so much easier to be like, I'll teach you how to do right. And that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is what people grapple to actually hold on to and believe,
Yeah.
that what's in them is valuable,
Yeah.
right? What is in you is valuable, and it can be how you live a full, whole, happy, healthy life in this profession, even if you don't do it full time, even
Yeah.
if you don't do it full time. And
Mhm.
so yeah, so that's why I love all the supports that we have, but
Yes.
we've done so much within this field, that being guided and supported by people who've done the work, and by your peers who are also doing the work, there's something special that we see happen in community when people get together and support each other.
Absolutely. And I think, like, mind you, we connected on social media, but I think about the thing about us is that we are unapologetic in putting our lives first and creating the
Yeah.
business and everything else around that.
Yeah.
We are unapologetic, and we both agree on that, on being happy, being fulfilled, and making everything else center around that. And I
And
think
being healthy.
and healthy, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? And I think a lot of us, what I'm finding is that a lot of us as therapists and social workers, we see that we're just like, wait, that's not what I was taught. I was taught
Yeah.
the other way around. Work got to go, or flip it around, right? Work
Yeah.
got to go first, everything else, and us last. And we're just like, no, you can flip it and still be successful, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's what you and I both demonstrate through just everything we've built and everything that we've gone to do with our own personal and individual careers.
Yeah, and that's what I love about when we share our stories, right?
Yes.
When we share our stories in community, and we get down to the nitty-gritty of the commitment to shift that we each had to make, and that we continue to make, right? That we continue to make. I think that it allows people to see themselves, because once again, while there are some of us who are social workers and therapists doing this work, there
Yeah.
are also others who are not doing this work. And sometimes I cringe at the advice that they give us, things
Yeah.
that are completely outside of the scope and ethical ability of what we're actually able to do as clinicians. And so I'm a staunch advocate for clinicians doing this work with and for other clinicians, because we have a unique perspective as to
Yeah,
what we're actually able to do,
absolutely.
and to keep us within our ethical codes, but then even also to think not outside of them, but to think bigger than what we think is possible. Because sometimes
Great
fear
point.
makes us hold ourselves to the strictest and smallest aspect of them.
Absolutely. Which then goes to the next question that I often see, right? And I would appreciate if we could answer this for our audience well as well, right? What's the smallest possible first step that still counts that you can take, right? When you think about that, what was the smallest first step that you think you took to help initiate that shift or get on that path, if you will?
So I'm going to give you two,
Go for it.
right? One is more esoteric, and then the other one is more tangible.
Yeah.
And this is a good question, because this is actually why we shifted, um, like we shifted the content
Yeah.
from Beyond the Code to Brave Enough to Begin, because we wanted people to leave with actual tangible things that they
Yeah.
could do, right? And so this is a good question, because there's so many, so we can give you some today and we can give you some Thursday, right? So not a problem. So the first thing was I allowed myself to dream. Like, I
Good.
allowed myself to dream, and I allowed myself to feel like, and I'm laughing because I was helping someone else um curate and put together their own like retreat like experiences, when my community was asking me for those kinds of experiences, and I was just like, no, 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 I'm
Yeah.
not doing that. No. And then I one day I just sat down and imagined myself saying yes to it.
Yeah.
Then that was the first thing, was I allowed myself to dream. The second thing was I started to create a plan. Like, excuse me, I literally put pen to paper
Yeah.
and started to say, okay, now that I've dreamt it, if I said yes to this, what could it look like? Right? Those are the first two things that I ever did before I even spoke the words yes to someone, was I allowed myself to dream, and then I put pen to paper to see what it could actually be. What about you?
That was beautiful. This is gonna sound a little cheesy, but I really don't think that I was put on this earth to live a mundane, boring life.
Girl, the way you live, I agree.
I truly believe that I was created by my parents and God to live this abundant life and have everything that I desire and go after it. And so I didn't always believe that though, right? I struggle. I had my own mental health struggles with depression. There were times where I was in and out of passive suicidal ideation. But when I got over that hump, I like rededicated my life to like really living and living for myself and like having the things that I want. And so sometimes that worked to my detriment because I would work like 3, 4 jobs. I was a hustler, but I would, in hustling, I would always make time for my dreams, right? So like I would, after work, I'd run downtown to go to these big fancy parties and like just connect with people. Like, hi, my name is Anim. I'm a therapist. Like, let's talk, let's connect, right? And so like that I really believe in this idea of abundance, but also getting out of my own way, right? Like even though like these things were happening in the background, even though I may have been tired, like because I truly believe in like this life that I have like pictured in my head, I had to get out of my own way, right? Yes, but this has happened and that has happened, and that's not to dismiss or minimize anybody's experience because trust me,
Yep.
I've been there. But I had to get out of my way, right? Like, how can I get anything done if I'm the one like literally keeping myself back, right? So some of that meant mindset stuff I had to work through. I had to like self worth, right? Like I'm worthy of these things undoubtedly, right? And one of the things I share with the ladies in the founders table, one in my upcoming courses, is that like I have this like money mantra hypnosis thing that I listen to every single day. That like I really
Mhm.
think it helps with just like this idea of like everything I want is gonna come to me, and like
Mhm.
energetically, I feel like I'm vibrating at the same level as it. Like I truly,
Those
uh,
things matter.
I
Those
think it
things matter.
absolutely does.
Studies actually show that those things make a huge difference. And I love what you say, because like what you said, because it speaks to like something I did as well. I started where I was. I
Yeah.
was working 2 jobs when I started my private practice. Two. two jobs. I said
Yeah.
two jobs, and my private practice was my third, right?
Yeah.
And I started exactly where I was, and I took one step. We're gonna walk this thing down, one thing at a time, one day at a time, one client at a time, one moment at a time. And sometimes we're looking for the big shift when
And
the
that's
big shift happens in the small moments. So I love that you after work. Hi, my name is Anim. I'm going to yes.
yeah.
It's like small. Yeah.
And like the inner critic inside me, I remember I share the story all the time. I remember Lyft was having this big party in San Francisco, and at that time it was like the Silicon Valley boom. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, part of me was like, who am I as a social worker to go to this Lyft party? But
Mm-hmm.
my sister was just like, why not? Right?
Mm-hmm.
My sister. And so I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make connections. I'm gonna talk to people, and people love it. Like, oh my god, you're a social worker. This is so amazing. Like, you can do X, Y, Z, and like that was the affirmation that I needed. That I was supposed to be in those rooms, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I need everybody to understand. You're supposed to be in these rooms too.
Yeah.
If you want to be in them, you should probably be in them. There is space there. You got to figure out what that looks like for you. But please don't discourage yourself and talk yourself out of being in those rooms. You belong in there just as much as anybody else.
Yes, 100%. And one of my whole models is if it's in you, it's because it's supposed to come out. It's supposed to be enacted. It's supposed to be birthed into the world. It's supposed to exist. It's going to lead you somewhere. And we stop ourselves from even envisioning, imagining, dreaming, or doing and bringing what's in us out into the world because we think that we're not good enough, right? We have never seen it done. We've never imagined ourselves doing it. And
Right.
so the ability to really be like, oh, wait, it can be me. Oh, wait, why not? Oh, wait, let me just go and see. One foot in front the other, in front the other, in front the other. It leads you somewhere. It guides you somewhere.
You got to trust the process, trust yourself, trust you're capable enough, trust what you're doing is going to be valuable enough. That's one of the other things we talked about at the founders table, right? Value-based pricing versus like that the I wouldn't say old model, but that sort of our exchange, right?
Yeah,
Trust
yeah.
yourself to say, hey, I'm charging $25,000 for this project.
Yeah. What one of the praise reports was when someone was saying that they doubled their investment just within the first 2 months, right? Like she more than doubled her investment in the program because of that mindset piece around one how she gained her visibility, which we'll talk about, right? How she gained her visibility, and then two, the ability to be able to say, yeah, no, this is my price. This is what I want to do, and this is my price.
Yeah, and I see you there. Take it or leave it. That's it. Because I trust in myself. I trust in my skills, and that's part of the mindset work that Melissa works through with all of us. Right? That's
And you listen, we are an amazing team. It's amazing how we met. It's
the,
amazing how we met. We do share the story on Thursday. It's amazing how we
the
met. But I do feel like we are really yin and yang in the way that we work. There's an amazing symbiosis, and
yep.
it shows up in the results that we get when we work with people who are committed to doing the work in the programs that we hold. And so I look forward to doing this again with you on Thursday.
Yes.
And we listen, we're gonna keep rocking. We're
Yeah.
gonna keep rocking.
Yo, meet us on Thursday. Brave enough to begin. If you don't have your tickets yet, the link is in both of our bios. You need to be there. This is
It is
just
also scrolling across the screen at the bottom.
scroll right there. Link in bio. But yeah, if you're ready for this, you just heard that we had to say there are steps you got to take. There's some mental roadblocks you got to go through. If you're ready to work through them, join us this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brave enough to begin. Zoom from home. You don't got to come in nowhere.
Virtual,
So
virtual. And if you join VIP, then there is an unlimited replay. So you do have to replay forever. And then you also get the opportunity to join us next week, Monday evening, in a smaller group where we can work with you more intensely and really talk you through some individual things that you might be interested in doing that the larger group that we may not get time to do in the larger group on Thursday.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So we'll see y'all Thursday. Thank
See
you for being
Thursday.
this evening. Take care. All right, bye.